everyone. Today we have a Vox Jaguar that belongs to a friend of mine. I've had it for a very, very long time, and it's got a lot of problems, but we're gonna get in there and fix it. I've actually already kind of gotten into here and done a little bit of work, so but let me bring you up to speed. Essentially, none of these black keys worked at all. I think a couple of them made a little noise down here, and these were kind of rough, look very scratchy, and all the keys are really sticky. So I've already undone the screws that are holding down this reddish orange cover here, so we can get into it. So these are all the tone generators here. I think they're generally okay. I'm going to get into it a little closer later on. As I lifted this thing up, this keyboard up earlier, this is what I found. Now right here, that is the main contact for all the black keys, the on contact. So that's almost certainly the main reason why they're not working. Let me get in a little closer and show you some details. Alright, over here in the white keys, there are two sets of contacts, one in front and one in back. When you press a key, it moves both of them forward. The one in back down here is for the bass notes, and the one in the front is for the normal organ notes. Now, right now, this upper contact is resting against a ground bar, and when you press it, it hits the on contact. Similarly, down here you got the ground and the on. Now over here in the black keys area, that's just normal organ without any bass. There's only one set of contacts, and this is the on bar, which obviously has fallen off of its mounting brackets. That's these little plastic things, and these things are really brittle, probably because they're several decades old, and they're prone to breaking. So if they do break on you while you're working on it, I use a little bit of this just modeler's glue, and it has worked very well. I've been able to repair this one. This one, I'm missing a piece right there. I may use hot glue for that, and it worked very nicely. But back to this, we gotta get this hooked back up here and aligned properly with the contacts if this thing's gonna have any hope of working right again. Before we do any of that though, I'm going to take off all these contacts here, clean them up as well as I can, and take apart the keyboard, which is really sticky, and clean that up. We'll get into that here in a little bit. In order to take these contacts off, you gotta remove this board, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws holding it in. Oh, 6, another one down here. And this whole assembly here, I recommend taking it off with these 3 screws down here at the bottom, and then these, well, there should be 1, 2, 3, we're missing one right there. Take that off. You can slide the whole thing out. Just be careful not to catch these loops on the contact bars, and then you can set it aside or remove the contact bars, and we'll be able to lift the keyboard out. Alright, this back piece is actually separate from the front piece, so we're going to remove both of them at this point in time. Alright, as you see, the wires going to the ground bar for the regular organ portion are actually connected all together here, so we're just going to be really careful and kind of move this aside while we take this portion out. Lifting it straight out and then off to the side as well. Careful, careful. As I'm taking this out, I'm noticing, among other things, The ground bar at the top is attached at several places along the way, and it's screwed on there, and the whole thing is attached indirectly to the boards. Some down over here, hard to see. Yeah, the wire's attached over here and over here. So we're gonna have to take off everything kind of all at the same time. Remove this last screw here and then unscrew that, and then work the ground bar out of the clips as gently as I can. There we go. Whole thing comes off now. Oh, we got caught. Careful there. There we go. We're just about ready to take the keyboard assembly off. We'll have to undo a couple screws right through here, and 1, 2, well, those are missing. So a couple there, and then these screws along down the bottom all the way to the end, and then the whole thing should lift right off, and we can service the keys themselves. Taking off the keys isn't terribly difficult. And first thing you do is you remove this little spring right under here with your fingers. There we go. It'll just hang right there. Only need to take it off the one side. And for the other part, for the rest of it, I just use this piece of wood, get under there, push the spring kind of out of the way if I can. Usually you can get it to fold up right under here. There you go, like that. I put the wood under there and use a screwdriver to gently pry the key right up like that. And then you just kind of tilt it forward and slide it forward and lift it off. Now right here is a little rubber bushing that in this case has been sitting in this position for several decades. When you think about it, when the spring pulls the key back, it lifts it up like that. So it's been pressing against the bottom of this thing for a long time, and that's part of the reason why this thing is the keys are sticky, a little sticky here. So what I'm going to do, two things. I'm going to move the bushing off, just slide it off with my finger gently, and you can see that thing. I'm going to turn it over so that the opposite side of the bushing is now the one that rests in contact with the key. You can see that's actually kind of flattened out on top. That's the part that was on the bottom. And take a look at this, take a little bit of this. Yeah, it's for spark plugs, but it's silicone and it works really well with these low rubber bushings. And I just kind of move it around on there. Take a Q-tip, a little bit of it, work it into the slot where the rubber meets the Rhodes, so to speak. In this case, the rubber meets the key. Then hook that onto the bushing, just like that. Work the post down into the hole there and slide it back into place. Now when you're doing this, you're going to want to do these 5 at a time and then the next 7 at a time, because in order to take the black keys off, you have to take the 3 white keys off first. And then in order to put it all back together, you have to put the black keys on first, then the white keys on after that. And after you get everything back together, it's just a matter of hooking this little spring right back onto that hook down there. You're ready to go. Okay, I got the keyboard reinstalled and starting to put it back together. I want to focus in on this portion right here, and these are the contacts for the bass portion of the keyboard. I'm going to put this camera on a tripod and talk a little more about this for a second. All right, now a common problem with this portion of the Vox is that these bass key contacts are actually designed in a manner kind of like a monosynth. It's monophonic, means only one note goes on at a time. And you see how it got the sort of zigzag pattern of the contacts? This is done this way so that if you play a low note and a high note, the only one you're going to hear is the low note. The complication arises when this pathway is disrupted as in the case was here, I had the first 6 notes and none of the ones above it because there was a bad contact right about here. So if you only have like a few of the bottom notes of the bass portion of your Vox Jaguar or similar, if only the low notes play, you probably got a bad contact somewhere along in here, and that's going to knock out all the others. So what you got to do is go in here and get some decent contact cleaner and kind of find where the problem is, find where it doesn't where the contact doesn't occur anymore, clean it up real well, and hopefully you'll have the same luck I did, which is after I did that, it sounded great. Only one note at a time, like it's supposed to, and all the way up from C to B. Just for general context, I mentioned this portion is like a monosynth, one note at a time. Here, with this arrangement, with the regular organ, you got as many notes as you want. Each one has its own separate contact, and they're not intertwined like those are. You got a separate wire going all the way back to the board. That's why you can play a full chord with the organ, but if you're doing the bass notes, you can only do one at a time. Okay, I've got all the contacts reinstalled. Got the contact rails put back in and aligned as best I could. Did a little bit of fine adjustment on some of the contacts to make sure they weren't hitting both of the rails at the same time, and it's actually working quite well. I want to point out a lot of these have this they all originally had this sort of a hard putty on there, and a lot of it has fallen off. You can actually see bits of it down here in the case. It's just been falling off as I've been playing, but I gotta say, I don't notice any real difference in how well a key plays, whether it has that on or not. So for the moment, I'm not going to do anything about that. Right now, it's sounding great. The next up, we're going to get into this section over here and clean up the contacts there, because as we work with some of this, there's a lot of scratchiness in whether these things turn on or off, and the vibrato switch doesn't work at all. So we're going to get into that next.